German pilots had a cruel sense of humor long before the Allies ever set foot on the beaches of Normandy. Whenever they saw a C-47 Skytrain in the sky, lumbering through the clouds with its fat fuselage and steady, unhurried engines, they would smirk. To them, it wasn't an aircraft worth fearing. It wasn't fast like a Messerschmitt. It wasn't armored like a Stuka. It didn't carry bombs or rockets or heavy guns. It was, in their eyes, nothing more than a flying mule, a slow, plodding, harmless machine. Many Luftwaffe veterans referred to it only by a single mocking phrase, the American flying truck, something that belonged on a farm, not a battlefield, something that would collapse the moment real war touched it. But history, as always, had a very different opinion. And on one unforgettable night in 1944, that so-called truck would carry 12,000 American paratroopers into the very heart of Hitler's fortress Europe, shatter the German defensive line from inside, and prove that sometimes the most underestimated machine becomes the deadliest weapon of all. Before that night, no one outside the Allied command truly understood what the C-47 was capable of. To look at it, you wouldn't guess greatness. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't sleek. It didn't look like a hero of the sky. Its twin radial engines hummed in a tone that seemed too gentle for war. Its interior smelled of oil, canvas, and sweat. It didn't inspire awe like the B-17, nor terror like the P-47 Thunderbolt. But the C-47 was never built for show. It was built for endurance, reliability, precision, and most importantly, delivery. When a commander needed an entire battalion delivered into the impossible, behind lines, across oceans, onto makeshift fields, into hostile territory, he didn't call a bomber or a fighter. He called the C-47. The Skytrain had abilities that German pilots didn't consider. It could fly for hours without complaint. It could carry men, supplies, food, ammunition, field radios, and even lightweight vehicles. It could land on muddy cow pastures, narrow roads, strips of sand, or small patches of grass. It didn't need a perfect runway. It could bring life into a battlefield or carry the wounded out. Some pilots joked that the C-47 was so loyal that if you drew a line in the dirt, it would try its best to land on it. But its greatest strength was far more important than cargo. It could carry paratroopers, dozens of them, wave after wave after wave, and not just anywhere, right into the enemy's spine. American paratroopers were unlike any other fighters in the war. They were built for chaos, trained to fight alone in the dark, surrounded by enemies who wanted them dead before sunrise. Their training was hell. They jumped until their legs shook. They learned to move silently through forests, to break through windows, to sabotage railroads, to seize bridges, to blow up fuel depots, to overwhelm towns from the inside. One sergeant of the 82nd Airborne said, "Jumping wasn't the fear. Landing among thousands of Germans was." Every man who climbed into a C-47 knew he was entering the unknown, and yet they trusted the aircraft completely. That trust would soon be tested like never before. Meanwhile, in Germany, arrogance was slowly poisoning military judgment. The Luftwaffe believed transport aircraft were a waste of resources. General Yashonek declared boldly, "Transport planes do not win wars." He couldn't have been more wrong. While Germany built fighters and bombers, the United States built more than 10,000 C-47s. They were the quiet giants that held the Allied war machine together. But Germany refused to believe that an army could strike from the clouds. They believed the ground war would decide everything. That belief would cost them their empire. June 5th, 1944, the night before D-Day. England was a thunderstorm of engines. airfields across the countryside glowed with floodlights as thousands of soldiers prepared for the jump of their lives. Paratroopers sat in circles writing their last letters home. Some tucked away photographs of mothers, wives, or children. Others tightened their gear silently, lost in thought. Outside, rows upon rows of C-47s waited in the dark, their engines humming like a heartbeat. One soldier whispered, "If we succeed, Europe goes free. If we fail, we die among strangers." Yet not one man backed down. Inside the aircraft, the atmosphere was suffocating. The red jump light cast an eerie glow over tense faces. Men sat shoulder to shoulder, knees touching, hands gripping rifles. The engines roared so loudly that conversation was useless. The vibration rattled their bones. Some prayed, some whispered jokes to hide fear. Others stared at the metal floor, imagining the night sky waiting outside. Then the command crackled through. "All aircraft, prepare for departure." Engines roared higher, wheels lifted, and slowly the greatest airborne armada in human history rose into the darkness. Hundreds of aircraft, then thousands, they formed long, endless chains across the sky, stretching from England toward the coast of France like rivers of steel. As they approached the French coastline, the sky began to glow with German searchlights. Then came the flak, explosions ripping open the darkness. Thousands of German gunners opened fire at once, turning the sky into a storm of fire and metal. Paratroopers inside the C-47s felt the aircraft shake violently. The sound of shrapnel hitting the fuselage echoed like hail on a tin roof. One soldier said, "I thought the wings would tear off, but the plane just kept pushing forward." Pilots wrestled the controls, dodging as best they could, guiding their planes through an ocean of fire. German gunners stared upward in shock. They had never seen anything like this. The sky was swarming with C-47s. One Luftwaffe pilot shouted into his radio, "Zu viele, viel zu viele." Too many, too many. The German high command was stunned. They had expected small raids, perhaps a few hundred men. What they got was a sky full of wings, unstoppable, relentless, uncountable. Inside the C-47s, the moment came. The red light glowed steady. Silence fell. Every man stood. Every hook clipped onto the cable above. Every heart pounded. And then the green light flashed. Go! Paratroopers leapt from the aircraft into the freezing night. The wind tore at their uniforms, ripping breath from their lungs. Below them, France stretched like a dark patchwork of fields, rivers, villages, forests, and enemy positions. One by one, their parachutes burst open like white blossoms against the black sky. German soldiers on the ground looked up, stunned, as thousands of Americans descended upon them like ghosts, slipping silently through the air. The landings were chaotic. Some men were scattered miles off course. Others landed in flooded marshes. Some landed in the middle of German positions, facing machine gun fire the moment their boots hit the ground. But airborne troops were trained for chaos. They regrouped quickly, forming small battle teams, capturing crossroads, cutting phone lines, ambushing convoys, blowing up bridges, and throwing German defenses into total confusion. One German soldier wrote, "We heard rustling in the fields, then whispers in English, then gunfire. They were everywhere and nowhere." That night, the German war machine cracked. The C-47s did not stop. They returned to England, reloaded, and came again, and again, and again, dropping gliders, bringing supplies, evacuating wounded. The flying trucks became angels of war. Pilots risked everything, flying low through flak, guiding their planes over enemy territory with impossible precision. Some planes returned full of holes, some never returned at all, but the mission succeeded. By dawn, key roads were in American hands. Bridges had been seized. German reinforcements were trapped behind their own broken logistics. Entire battalions found themselves surrounded by airborne troops who had fallen from the sky. Hitler's Atlantic Wall, the barrier he believed would protect Europe for 1,000 years, had been shattered overnight. German commanders finally understood the truth. The war was not lost when the first tank landed on the beach, but when the first C-47 appeared overhead. These aircraft, mocked as flying trucks, had delivered the army that broke Europe free. They had changed the course of the war. They had turned the impossible into reality. In the months that followed, the C-47 continued to define the war. It carried paratroopers over Holland during Operation Market Garden. It brought vital supplies to Bastogne during the Battle of the Bludge. It carried Allied forces deep into Germany. It even helped save a starving city during the Berlin airlift after the war. The Skytrain became a symbol of Allied strength,